For the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. First on the agenda, we have a new hire. We have a recommendation from our interim town administrator. I'll bring that over to you. Yes.
Yes, good evening. So we have had a quite robust conversation about our recreation director. It was advertised. And we had interviews. We had several candidates for the position, and we are so pleased that Ms. Woodmansee applied. She has a very long history with the town in her recreation volunteer opportunities as a member, former chair of the Recreation Commission, and she was definitely the strong candidate, and that is why my recommendation stands as it is this evening.
All right. Can we have a motion?
Motion to approve the hiring of Robin Woodmansee as the Recreation Director.
Second.
All right. So we have our motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is the candidate here? Would they?
Yes.
Oh, there she's in the back. I'd like to just say, first of all, I appreciate the work that knowing firsthand what it takes to do a task force for hiring. I want to thank the people that did the work to do this. I've had the opportunity, having been on the Recreation Commission prior to being on council this term, to work with Miss Woodmansee, and people think that I have a lot of energy and ideas and enthusiasm, and then I respond, well, you haven't met Robin yet. So I look forward to seeing what she can help to bring to the town. So thank you for stepping forward, should you be chosen.
All right, sure, go ahead. Okay.
Yep. So I think she's qualified, but the only concerns I have are the existing professional and personal relationship she has with people in the town and the town staff. You know, that's just I don't think it looks good to the town, the community, that someone so close, I think, is getting, being hired. So that's just my opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Any further council discussion? Sure, go ahead, Mark.
I would just say, I mean, I have not at the town level, but I have personal experience when Robin was running the PTO at Richmond Elementary School. She was, bringing in new events, new fundraising, spearheading events and activities, coordinating volunteers, doing all of the things that this position is going to require. So in addition to, Erin's recommendation, I have, firsthand experience with her. And I appreciate, Councilor Dinsmore's concerns. In a small community, you can't help but end up with people that someone's associated with. It's the way it is. I trust that her qualifications stood above and beyond the others. And I don't know if Erin wants to elaborate on that, you can. But, I trust that, she's the right candidate, both from my own experience and from Erin's recommendation.
Any further council discussion, or did you want to?
Sure.
Okay.
So as someone who has been in this community my life, and someone who has worked outside this community and inside this community, I think that it is a wonderful opportunity when we have someone who is directly here that has the skill set that we would like, who has built relationships over time, and some of those are definitely advantages. And so I would hate to see any personal connection be a disadvantage for our community, because we have someone here that was the top standing in the search process. Someone who has proven herself not only on our local Recreation Commission, but in other avenues in our community. And while in a small town, and a small town that I believe as an asset to retain those individuals who still want to retain in the town they grew up with and maintain those relationships, that just strengthens our community. And so I'm hoping that that there is no concern that there has been, certainly there is those personal relationships. I grew up here. Miss Woodmansee grew up here and has maintained to serve her community as well as I have, and that would not be something that would be taken away from her position in consideration this evening. But my recommendation is a recommendation, and I can say that the process was done to the full extent, and I stand by my integrity that that is the only consideration taken, is that the right person is there for the job, and Robin is that person, and we are very lucky that she has maintained that position here in town.
Thank you. I don't have any concerns with your qualifications, although we've never had the chance to like work on any big projects together. The work you've done has not gone unnoticed, so I have no concerns with qualifications, but I do appreciate concerns being raised. Any other discussion before we go to our vote? All right, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
No.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right. On to,
Congratulations.
yes, congratulations. All right, on to appointments and resignations. I'm gonna make a motion to accept the resignation of Pat Pouliot from the 250th Commission with regrets.
Second.
Thank you. Just want to give a quick thank you to Pat for her time on the committee. She was a valued member who brought a lot of good ideas for the table, and we're really excited for 2026. So I thank you for the time that she had. Thank her for the time that she spent with us. All right, I'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, can I have a motion for the resignation of Nicholas Litro from the zoning board?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? We'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. I would like to make a motion to reassign Karen Reynolds as a member at large to the school committee member of the 250th Commission.
Second.
All right, just a quick explanation. It's in the email. Pat Pouliot was technically our school committee liaison, but we had two people in the community who were both on the school committee and loved history that joined us. So we're just moving her. So that way now there's an opening for anybody. They don't necessarily have to be a school committee member to join us on the 250th. All right, seeing no discussion, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
I'm going to recuse,
and myself, yes.
even though it's a position without compensation.
We're not getting paid for that? Huh. All right, on to the consent agenda. Anybody have anything they want to vote on separately?
Oh, I have, yes,
Okay,
need to pull letter A.
all right. I'll start with a motion to approve 1A.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All right, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Abstain.
and myself, yes. We have a motion to approve 1B.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? We'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, on to public forum. The purpose of public forum is to give members of the public an opportunity to address the town council about items not on the agenda. We ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You'll have one opportunity to address the council during public forum. This is out of courtesy for others who wish to speak to ensure we have equal time for all. There will be a timer which will go off when your 3 minutes are up, so you know to finish. If you need more time, we welcome you to submit your comments in writing to the town clerk to be included as a part of the record in the communications section of the agenda. All comments should be directed to the president and not any other person present. If you have anybody in person or online who would like to speak in public forum, we do have a member there of the public. And typically public forum is for members of the
I'll be
public.
speaking as a member of the public, not as a member.
You can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, I'll wait.
Good evening, my name is Mark Ray John, I'm a Richmond resident. I come before you as a concerned citizen about the recent appointment of Mr. Nicholas Turro as the new municipal court judge. Although I do not know him personally, I'm aware that he's an accomplished attorney, a former municipal court judge of Cranston, and has served as chair of Richmond zoning board for quite some time, has done a fine job. Personally, I do not believe any resident of Richmond should be served as the municipal court judge. It's my opinion the council should have selected someone with experience who is a non-resident. What happens if one of Mr. Satro's neighbors or friends of his who live in Richmond come before him in court? This lends itself to an appearance of partiality, and his judgment could be reasonably questioned. Let me be clear, I'm no way questioning Mr. Satro's integrity. Am I the only one that feels this is a can of worms and shouldn't be the way we start off a new municipal court? Mr. Soltero may have personal knowledge of facts about a particular case. This conflict is our real possibility moving forward, especially in a small town. What happens if he has to recuse himself from a case because he has personal knowledge of the facts? Who then will hear the case? Will taxpayers have to pay a stipend for a new judge? I applaud Councilor Dismore for voting no on his appointment. Democrats, members of this council who voted for Mr. Soltero appointment touted themselves as advocating for true transparency during their campaigns. The process of selecting a municipal court judge didn't appear to be very transparent to me. The actual agenda item, as it appeared on November 18th, agenda stated in accordance with section 42, TAC 26, TAC 6 Bravo, the council may review, discuss, and/or take action on the following item: discussion and consideration of hiring a municipal court judge. There was no name attached to this agenda item, which is curious to me. How did the public know who was being considered for the appointment on the 18th? They didn't, and that's a problem. In 2023, there was a town planner who was hired, and her name was listed on the agenda. Why wasn't Mr. Soltero's name listed on the agenda? Also, when did the council interview the candidates? Councilor Reynolds said that at the November 18th meeting. We had a great pool of applicants with great attorneys with lots of experience. Can the council share how many applicants there were? Finally, how many of the members of this council have a personal relationship with or friendship with Mr. Soltero? If this is the case for any of you, the right thing would have been to abstain from voting for this appointment. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I can answer some of your questions real quick. We have 18 seconds left, but we did meet in executive session to discuss applicants under the allowed law under character, personal character. And we had 4 applicants which we interviewed. That was publicly noticed on the agenda. I don't remember the day, so I'm not going to speak and be misquoted. We had 4 applicants that we interviewed. One ended up saying they didn't want to move forward, which is fine. We did address the question with each applicant about potential recusals because that can happen whether or not you live in town. And they all answered with integrity and looking forward because that could really happen with any of them. And I think that answered most of your questions. I think we kind of addressed the question about personal relationships. You know, it's a small state with it's a very small town, so you're going to know people sometimes. And there are other municipalities that have their municipal court judge who also live in their town. We're not alone on that.
Okay.
Thank you. In my prior term, I had once said that I don't think that council members are members of the public. The ACLU actually did tell me that they're not members of the public. If I'm alone here and somebody wants to make a motion to override the chair, we can do that.
So you're saying he can't speak unless we override him?
Kind of, I just want to keep with my own consistency in the
It's all
past.
good. I'm gonna sit back down.
Okay. Sure, thank you.
And you'll see that I'm just trying to do public service.
I know, I
Too late
appreciate
to
it.
inform the agenda because it was already passed, but I believe Mr. Kona has something to say.
I appreciate your understanding.
Sure.
I was all ready to do it.
Mr. Kona, Richmond resident. The Rhode Island Center Assisting Those in Need, where I can, will be hosting their 15th annual Polar Plunge at the Charlestown Beach Road on New Year's Day at 11:30 a.m. The plunge at 12 noon. Last year, there were 400 to 500 people at the beach with over 200 plungers. The RICAN raised over $40,000 with 85 cents of every dollar going to those experiencing food insecurity in our backyard. So please consider joining in on the fun and making the Polar Plunge donation to RICAN. All the information can be found at www.rhodeislandcan.org.
Thank you so much.
Go plunge.
Thank
I'll See
you.
you at the beach.
Go ahead, please state your name for the record.
Goldie Williams, I'm from Richmond. I was wondering who's responsible for the roads very early in the morning, because this morning I almost hit a metal guardrail going into the road for the gristmill, because I live on Punchbowl Trail. And I almost got in an accident, and I'm wondering who's responsible for that. Second, I understand that there's a 73,000 deficit at the transfer station. And someone I know hasn't paid, when he goes 2 or 3 times, hasn't paid at all. They never ask for any money. Who's responsible for that? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a look into it. Any other public comments? Sure, go ahead. And then, oh, we'll go Mr. Mayor and then Robin. Good. Please do state your name for the record.
Good evening. Question regarding the new town administrator. Any decision? How many people have been interviewed? When will you make up your mind?
Are you done with your 3 minutes?
I'm done.
All right, you can have a seat and then we'll have Counselor respond.
Madam President, may I
Yes.
respond? Thank you, Mr. Marin. As many people are aware, we had a very robust applicants. We had 95 applicants who we went through the resumes. We did not interview all of those. And we had a short list of about 10% of those individuals that we consider to go into the next round. And we actually conducted 4 or 5 in-person interviews that were 2 hours each. So then those recommendations were given to council. Council's been given all the information, as you remember the last meeting. They reviewed information, and there'll be a special meeting coming up for council to review more information this week, Thursday. And then on the 10th, we'll be doing interviews, and then it's on the agenda on the 16th of December for council to make a final decision. So the process will be done at that point. So thank you for your questions. I hope that at least answers the questions. You know, as you know, as an HR professional, the process of doing the diligence from the beginning, we had to refine the process to determine the questions and formulate how we're going to do the process, and tried to move through that as expeditiously as possible. But we're very happy with the process, the way it went, and the work we did. And it was an honor to serve with the people in the community, the 6 other members who did it. So I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Woodmansee.
Robin Woodmansee of Richmond. I just wanted to remind everyone that this Friday is our tree lighting festival. So please, everyone, come out and enjoy. It will begin at 5 p.m. At 5:15, the Richmond Elementary School chorus will be singing. 6 o'clock, Santa will come in on his beautiful sleigh with our fire trucks and police officers. And then from a little after 6 to 8, we'll have a band, Two Fine Fellows will be here. We'll also have food trucks and lots of fun events. A face painter, a balloon artist. So please come out, have some fun with your community. We look forward to it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, quick
Sure,
question.
just have a seat.
I was just wondering if you determined if our tree was actually bigger than Charlestown or not.
We do have a wonderful trio.
Oh,
Thank you.
Radiant.
did we have anybody online?
Maybe. So, well, it's a good question.
There is not.
No.
All right, on to reports.
So I have one item this evening. We've had some, maybe a few months ago, some discussions about the Department of Transportation is taking, Rhode Island State Department of Business Regulation is taking over all trade names for the state of Rhode Island. Richmond was one of the first towns ready for that. And so to not have any more concerns of businesses of who they register with, whether register at the state or the town, we are prepared and ready for our trade name and our business registration listing to be taken over. Certainly this was introduced by legislation, passed by legislation. So not that the town had a true decision that way or not, but getting the listing ready. I want to thank Kendra for her work on this project, and we are ready to have a comprehensive list of our businesses registered names in Richmond transferred to the state of Rhode Island. So this is simply just a authorization to sign the memorandum of understanding, basically saying we're ready to transition our names. And so after this point forward, I believe Wednesday is tomorrow is the cutoff point, and so we will no longer be taking names in Richmond. They will all be referred, whether you're a LLC, DBA, corporation, or any entity of the same, will all be one entity with the state of Rhode Island, which hopefully will provide some clear direction where certain names are accepted at the town level and certain names are accepted at the state level to ease business operations in the state of Rhode Island. So it's just a simple agreement of allowing to enter that agreement.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have a motion or
Motion,
discussion? Yeah.
motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the memorandum of understanding between the Rhode Island Department of State and the town of Richmond regarding trade name registration.
Second.
All right. Any council questions or discussion?
We'll still have access to the data. That's part of the agreement that they agree to send us what they get. So we still have, we don't maintain the list, but we still have access.
That is correct. We will have it the same as we have our other databases, and we're hoping it to be a cleaner source of data as each town goes on.
Awesome. Seeing no other discussion, we'll go for our vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you so much, Erin. We'll go on to Chief.
Everybody,
Good evening.
Chief.
keeping my raincoat on
I'm gonna
because
say,
it's not warmed up here. I don't know.
No.
I'm getting older and my blood is thinner, but I wanted to share, I know Mrs. Williams mentioned icy roads. It depends on whether it's a town road or a state road as to whether DOT does it or DPW. But our DPW was out there early this morning. I know that our patrol officers on third shift saw the roads were getting icy and called them to specific roads. But if anybody in the community happens to be on a road and they know it's icy, you can call us directly. We're always there and we'll alert DPW directly. Okay. So I wanted to share two things very briefly. AAA of Rhode Island holds an annual traffic safety awards ceremony every year. And this particular event was on November 19th. 2025, and it was at the Crown Plaza, and three of our officers, there were 17 police departments recognized out of the 39 in the state. One of them was ours, and it was based on the work of Sergeant William Laterio, Officer Ryan Donahue, and Officer Brock Taylor for enforcement, education, like teaching young drivers at the high school, and then car seat compliance checks and car seat installations. And Richmond Police Department was presented with this bronze award. It's lovely. It almost looks gold, but it is bronze apparently. And it says, in recognition of your outstanding achievements and efforts to protect the citizens of your community, AAA salutes your commitment to traffic safety. Those three officers in particular, particularly Bill Laterio, he's been nominated and recognized for over a decade. He usually leads our department of DUI enforcement, but all of their efforts, the goal is to prevent fatal accidents and tragedies that we have handled. One comes to mind, Thanksgiving of 2013, young man from our community was drinking and driving, two passengers, his girlfriend and his best friend from North Kingstown, and they were traveling down Hillsdale Road 2 days before Thanksgiving. He crashed, rolled it over. His friend was partially ejected, crushed and killed. And initially, when police went there to investigate, they lied about who was driving because he was worried about the consequences. He ultimately admitted it. They put a great case together. He was held accountable. The sad thing is it doesn't bring the person that died back and the family that lives in North Kingstown. Every Thanksgiving is a reminder of that painful loss. So I can't credit them enough for this, for their respective awards for being traffic safety heroes. Secondly, we do this every year. It's our Stuffer Cruiser Toy Drive. It's going to be at Ocean State Job Lot. They have been a great community partner. It's on Matthew Thayer Day, which is the second Saturday every December. This year it's December 13th. And it is between 9:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. We're looking for new unwrapped toys that we can bring to dry can. And we've collected thousands and thousands of toys with Matthew's Wish team. And I have to tell you the impact. There are kids in this community that don't have a lot. And it really does bring a lot of joy and change their outlook on life, and to know that their police department, their first responders, their civilian volunteers from Matthews Wish care about them. So please come out and join us, whether it's snowing, raining, we'll be there. That's all I have.
Thank
Chief.
you. All right, on to our town planner report.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
So I'm here tonight to have a discussion and consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance for authorization for the town clerk to advertise for a public hearing. So as you are well aware, there are proposed changes to chapter 1816 section, and this would create a new section 1816-040 entitled uses permitted by special use permit. In your materials, there was my memo, which gave
Mhm.
some insight into the discussion that the planning board had. There was the advisory opinion from the planning board to the town council, and attached to that, as well as attached subsequently, were the proposed changes to 1816. If you have any specific questions about those, I'd be happy to answer them. Or if you have any questions about the process generally, I'd be happy to give you some insight into that. I would note that the special use permit process is one mechanism to allow the planning board to review an application. So changes to state law have made it so that most minor applications that do not have a public hearing component because they don't have a road creation or extension are largely going to be heard and reviewed and ultimately approved, denied, or approved with conditions by the administrative officer, which is myself. So I've mentioned this to the planning board. I've brought this up in the past, but I think that having the planning board participate in these processes is a great idea. I think that there are a lot of components to applications that the more eyes on it, the better. The more public input that's allowed for it, the better. But having retained the special use permit process will allow the planning board to engage in those processes that otherwise they might not be able to engage in. If you have specific questions about chapter 1816.040, I'd be happy to answer anything that you may have, or if you're so inclined, you can select a date certain for when you're going to have the public hearing open. You can ask me questions at that time as well. Whatever the council's pleasure is.
All right.
You
wanna go ahead?
It's gonna be some time, so I
I will
want to
too.
give the opportunity for other counselors to question or make statements before I.
Okay, I was thinking maybe we had some questions last time, so I wanted to maybe start with seeing if those questions were answered, and then go into new ones, if that sounds good. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understand what's happened since the last time we were here, just, the current proposal, Talia, my understanding is there have been no changes made to the table. So all of the uses that were that had been previously changed have been unchanged, so that the table itself is not changing,
There's one change.
except for the bank
The
thing.
bank is the only thing that is changing in the table.
Right.
Beyond that, the table is as it is presently, where they have E's for permitted, X's for prohibited, and S for special use permit.
And so the changes are the proposed objective criteria for all of the different special use categories.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So my concern during our last discussion was with some of the special use permits within the aquifer. And some of them I understand, they make sense. For example, 240. they want to, and literally the specific criteria says to ensure protection of the municipal waterways, but I still have concern with some uses where if they're in the aquifer, we're then creating criteria that doesn't protect our water supply. For example, 538 parking lot. If this is permitted in general business, light industrial, PUCVC, and land development, but if it also is in the aquifer, we want them to have crosswalks. And I think if you need a crosswalk, you need a crosswalk. I don't think that really affects. So I would like a review of anything where it's just the aquifer, and have the special criteria and specific criteria be related to protecting our water. If not, I think it should just be switched to a U, which is underlying, and if it's permitted in that zone, it's permitted in that zone. Other than that, I do appreciate the other changes that I brought up that were updated, because I know we went through a lot last time, we went through them line by line. So that was the really big sticking point for me. But anybody else have anything they want to share? We'll kick it over to Dan.
Well, I might be able to clear up that question. Talia, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Even with a special use permit that's in the APOD, you still have to adhere to the APOD requirements. So that location being in the APOD then triggers an applicant to have to fulfill the requirements of the APOD ordinance. So I know that you're asking for specificity for a special use permit or anything that's permitted in the APOD, but it being in the APOD itself is a trigger for them to have to adhere to the requirements of the APOD ordinance. So I don't necessarily think we need something specific in the special use permit objective criteria regarding
Right.
water quality.
So you think it could just switch to you and be underlying?
No, I think
It should-
even with the S, it doesn't matter if it's a S or U, you still have to adhere to the
So maybe
APOD ordinance.
it could be a reference to that ordinance.
I mean, I don't think it would hurt if you're asking for another line item in here that says, oh, and by the way, you still have to meet the requirements of the APOD ordinance. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
That's just a pointer.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
As I mentioned in the memo, a lot of this information is very much food for thought for the council and food for thought for the public. I'm not operating under any kind of assumption that this is going to be something that is universally beloved. I'm operating under the assumption that there are going to be people, and maybe on the council, maybe members of the public, who have concerns about what's been put forth here, and I welcome those questions, and I welcome having the ability to participate in the public hearing process, just to be able to better explain what some of these things might mean. I know that these processes are complicated. It's something that I live and work with and deal with every day, so it's kind of old hat to me, but I know that that's not the case as it is for everyone. So if anything that I can do to clarify any component of this, I'm happy to do. I know that there are certainly going to be changes that arise as a result of your continued review of what's been proposed, particularly once the public hearing is open. So I'm not, while I've spent a fair amount of time on this, and while the planning board has spent a fair amount of time on this, and while the solicitor has spent a fair amount of time on this, if there are major things that the council wants to see or wants to subtract, that's how this process goes.
Yeah. Thank you.
I haven't even begun yet.
I know.
All right, so I'm gonna just start off with where I'm at right now. I am not comfortable sending this to public hearing yet. And I know that a lot of people here in the planning board are gonna be very disappointed in that. But maybe our expectations to the planning board weren't clear. When we had discussed it last time, we talked about the objective criteria for special use permits. We're going to allow them. And what I found generally looking through this, and I went through almost all of them, but then I got tired, is that there are times where some of the requirements, they're very vague, they're not explicit. There's no like specific or actually like measurable requirements for some of the use codes. And I'll just give an example, for instance. I'll just name a few: 502, 536, 604. They specifically list a landscaping buffer adjacent to residential areas. Okay, great. I agree with that. I'm an applicant. I'm going to come and say, all right, I'm I'm submitting for a special use permit to do one of those uses here. There's residential abutting. But you don't tell me how deep my buffer needs to be. And so then the planning board is going to be sitting there and they're going to have to make an arbitrary decision on what they think a buffer is. How deep? 25 feet, 50, 100 feet? You know, we went through this with some zone changes with the PDR, with the preserve and their buffer. And we took our time on the planning board to determine what an appropriate buffer is. But if you're doing that during an application, you leave yourself risk and liability for disagreement from an applicant to sue you because you just made an arbitrary decision on what that buffer should be. So I guess to be more explicit for the planning board and not to, I don't want to, and I was on the planning board, so like I understand how this works, is my expectation was the planning board will look at this and say, all right, we've got this use. We want a landscape buffer between this use and residences. How deep do we want it? So you can look in the rest of our subdivision regulations and zoning and look for examples where we already have a buffer. Because I don't think the council wants to sit here and do that line by line. My expectation is that the planning board's responsibility, and then they provide us with that data. We say, yeah, okay, you know, they're the subject matter experts. We agree with that. Send a public hearing, we get more input. So that's one example. We've got an example of screening of mechanical equipment. I'm not going to say, well, what screen would the planning board accept? Is chain link fence? Well, that's not really a screen, you can see right through it. Is it some type of vinyl fencing? Is it wood? Is it a landscape buffer? So the things of that nature. There's another example for use code 308. Let me just pull that up 1 second.
Cemetery.
Cemetery, okay. So there's criteria in here for a setback from wells and water courses. Well, there's no measurement, there's no requirement there for how far the setback is. Now, I don't think we're gonna get any cemeteries. However, the point is there's nothing actionable there for an applicant. It says, I'm going to go spend the money for the engineering to put this development together, and I don't know what the planning board wants for setbacks. Then there were some other questions I had. For instance, that's another good example. In the requirements, we have burial records maintained. So I looked at that and said, well, why would a land use document require burial records be maintained? Is that really a land use function? There are other examples of that. So a child daycare, that's use code 322. We're requiring in the land use document that the daycare has proof of licensing. Well, that's not a land use or a planning or a zoning function. That's a business licensing or state function. And then I think going back to I was looking at 240, which is what Councilor Wilcox brought up. You know, we talk about to ensure the protection of the municipal's waterways, breeding of invasive nuanced aquatic species defined in that, and then minimum lot size. And then it also says the applicant shall provide information to the planning board on proposed water source and estimate volume of water required for use. And so my response to Councilor Wilcox was, well, it's already in the APOD. You have to do that. So we're kind of repeating something we already have, unless you're pointing directly to, hey, you have to adhere to that ordinance. So I think is a cleaner, more elegant way. So I didn't go through and provide examples of every single one here because I didn't feel that we should do that. My request to the council is if they agree with me and not sending it to public hearing, is we send it back to the planning board again. We ask for more explicit requirements for some of these very broad requirements that are there now, and they provide that back to us. And I understand that people in the planning board, because I was one of them, might get upset or disappointed. But I'd rather do it right than just do it to get it done. And I don't know if they had that feedback before, so I want to provide that feedback. The other thing I wanted to bring up is there is specific requirements in here for dark sky compliant lighting. But we have dark sky compliance scattered throughout our zoning ordinances and our subdivision regulations. And this is kind of a separate request and something to consider as the planner when you talk to Phil when you put on the agenda. Maybe we just clean up our subdivision regulations and zoning for where dark sky compliant lighting needs to be, the requirements. We don't require it in normal residences because you'd have to require every single house that's built to have dark sky compliance, and some people want to have floodlights for safety, but for parking and other types of uses, we do require dark sky compliant lighting. I just thought it was unnecessary to keep repeating it when we could just simplify it. That's my high level feedback for the council. Thank you for giving me the 10 minutes.
I don't think it's that long, but thank you for sharing it. I completely agree with the dark sky. I had mentioned that as well when I spoke with Talia, and I agree with you that we're not ready for a public hearing. There were some questions that last time that I had felt, I don't know if others had mentioned it, that the criteria wasn't specific enough. Pull up my notes from last meeting and I wrote, for example, 738, parking based on gross floor area. And I was like, well, what's the gross, like, what's the ratio? What should it be? So I appreciate the additional insight as far as, like, you're right, with the buffer. How far should that be? It's the same thing. But I'll open it up to other council feedback as well.
That's a good one. So delivery and loading plan to minimize traffic conflicts.
Yeah.
Well, what does that actually entail? We don't actually have that defined anywhere in our regulations.
Yeah, and there was one in here, I don't remember, I could find it, where it asked for if they didn't plow, then they get a fine, but we don't actually have a fine for that. So that part stuck with the new draft as well. I don't know, that one didn't make sense to me. But do we have any other council feedback on?
If no one else says anything.
Yeah, I'm checking this out before I go to you twice. All right, go ahead.
So I know I raised the last time some of the minimum lot sizes with various use codes. You know, for example, 306, which is private nursery school, a kindergarten. It's permitted with a special use permit in an R1 zone, but you've got a minimum lot size of 2 acres. Why can't, you know, so my question is, and I may, you know, may just be, I need to know the reason behind it, but why couldn't you have a private nursery school, a kindergarten on a 1 acre lot?
You can.
All right, with that, so why is the minimum lot size 2 acres?
You can receive relief from those kinds of requirements. So any of these criteria that are put forth as part of this, an applicant could feasibly seek relief from these requirements.
Right, but why can't you just say minimum lot size shall comply with whatever the zoning in that area is? So if it's R1, it's 1 acre. If it's R2, it's, you know, why impose a requirement and require someone to seek relief from a requirement that's not necessary?
Well, you can have a property that's 2 acres in an R1 zone as
Okay.
well.
Well,
So
I'm just, you know,
it's a good point.
Or you can have somebody who's less than an acre in a residential one, because residential one is the absolute minimum, right? There's no just residential.
Well, there were plats that were created well before the zoning enabling legislation was put into place, and prior to the town actually enacting our zoning. I mean, we can change our zoning really anytime the council wants and say, well, we can make the whole town R3 if we want.
yeah, so I guess my, again, general feedback, if this is going back to the planning board, is to look at those minimum lot sizes and determine whether they need to be as high as they are.
I'm just going to say this. If this goes back to the planning board, I am going to be devising this criteria. It is going to be me who is doing it. It is not going to be the planning board. The planning board is going to read what I write. So if there are any specific things that you don't want to have in the next iteration, tell me. So then I can craft a draft that will be palatable to you ultimately at some point in the future.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, so Talia, thank you. I think that's one of the things I was thinking about. So this doesn't ping pong back and forth. You know, providing you, if you're going to be doing this, like, for example, when there's something related to, and I think you've gotten the flavor for that tonight, so that we give you the blank lines for the specificity we need, setbacks, acreage, you know, those types of things. And obviously you're looking at all these. If you have questions, if you're looking at any of these and you're saying, look, that doesn't really, if there's something that we missed, for example, that you could let us know so we could give you that guidance so we don't have this back and forth. Because obviously we don't want to keep putting this back to the planning board and having them get frustrated. They want to do the work in accordance with what we're asking, but maybe they weren't clear on what we were asking. So now they're thinking they've done what we want. So if you're the point person in the middle, if you're looking through that, obviously that conversation doesn't end here, but if there are additional questions you have, there's got to be a mechanism where we can at least answer those to give you the criteria that you can frame it out.
I think this is the forum.
Okay.
So if you want to eliminate minimum lot size, if you want to have dark sky compliant be a separate ordinance, if you want to task me with doing that, you're welcome to do so. If you want to eliminate the state licensing elements, that largely came from what other communities have put in place in relation to their special use permit criteria. I did look at what other communities were doing as food for thought. But if you don't think that that's necessary, that can be removed. Just what is it that you are looking for specific and objective criteria?
Well, I'm just thinking like
Generally speaking.
like, for example, vegetative buffer. We haven't said the distance of that vegetative buffer. We haven't said the size of the vegetation that needs to be planted in that buffer. Remember when we did this with the solar pieces, right? One of the challenges with the different legislations based on zoning of the lot size was some of it had it, some of it didn't, which created these problems. You're not, they said, okay, there should be an 8-foot, evergreen setback 10 feet from a fence. Like, do you feel comfortable based on what we've told you that you can now go away, look at that and craft that for the planning board to review? Or do you need more from us?
I'd like as much as you want to give me.
I'm just afraid we're not going to give you it all. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have a critical eye to look at. I just want to,
Give me as much information as you possibly stand to give me at this moment in time, and I will try and write something that I think will achieve the aims of the council.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You got something?
I would just say, I'll be specific, unless there's some large, commercial development or some specific use that requires more space, that, lot sizes, I think an acre should be okay as a minimum. But I'm open to, hey, listen, you can't do this application on an acre. It's just not possible. That's what I'm, trying to understand. If there is a reason for a larger lot size, I'm open to hear it. That's really what I'm looking for. So, but that was just my general, it seems that most of the minimums are 2 acres. I think for a lot of them, they could be 1, but if there's a reason why it shouldn't be, I'm, happy to hear, from you or the planning board as to why it should be 2 and not 1.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Talia, so this process, when we amend the zoning ordinance, planning board's required per the zoning ordinance to provide the town council with a recommendation. I understand that this revision was promulgated because of the change to the Rhode Island general laws and the zoning enabling act. And the town is really the one initiating. It's not coming from an applicant, but still, regardless, the planning board needs to provide a recommendation. So I understand that you're going to be modifying it, but the planning board shouldn't just be a rubber stamp. And my expectation for the planning board, being a member for 5 years and the vice chair for 2, is that the planning board will look at what you wrote and provide constructive feedback. If they're not doing that, then we have to instruct them to do it. And you're asking us to provide you feedback when we're not experts in land use. The planning board is the volunteer organization that's supposed to be the experts working with us, doing the research to do it, and then providing us with a recommendation. So I don't know how I can make it any more clear, but it shouldn't just fall on your shoulders. And if the planning board and the town council need to have a workshop to do this, because we did that with the 8-pod, then maybe we need to do that. Because I don't think we should just be accepting changes to our regulations without performing due diligence. And right now, we're just not there. We're not there. And if it requires a workshop with the planning board and the town council, then I'm for it. So we can go through it together. And I don't have a problem, and I know some councilors may disagree. We go through it line by line and discuss the merits of every single requirement.
The council's prerogative.
I'd be open to a workshop, and I believe the planning board is as well. So maybe that's the next step we take. Just because, I don't know,
I would as well.
Yeah.
What would the council as a body like to explicitly direct me to do as part of this process? That's what I'm looking for.
Right. So let's get a motion for some direction.
All right,
Anybody?
I will
Yeah.
make a motion to schedule a workshop with the planning board. To a date to be decided, to discuss, one second, to get the agenda up. Chapter 18.16.
Second.
0.040.
Well, we'll probably discuss the entire ordinance, so I didn't want to make it
Yeah.
specific.
Any further discussion? You have something on that there?
So at the last council meeting, we authorized other amendments, and so we held off on advertising for public hearing because it is a 3-week ad time for zoning amendments, and the ad cost is quite substantial. So I just, again, want to set some expectations. If we're doing that, it probably makes sense to alter that public hearing until a final decision is made on all. So it would be 1 public hearing notice and 1 advertising cost at that time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we tried to get through what we could, but I think we're at an impasse here.
All right. So we have our motion. We have our second. Any further council discussion on scheduling a workshop? All right. We'll go to our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. I think we're all set with this item for now.
Thank you, Todd.
All right. Thank you, Talia.
You.
Of course. All right, on to unfinished business, discussion and consideration of a use of town property ordinance with an authorization for the town clerk to advertise public hearing. Do we have a motion for discussion? Then we can go into the discussion?
Motion to discuss and consider the use of the town property ordinance with. No, I'm just gonna make the motion to discuss and consider the use of town property ordinance.
Second.
All right. Do you want to kick it off since you made the motion?
Yeah, sure. All right, so Councilor Wilcox and myself, along with interim town administrator Lease and Councilor Solicitor Zangari, have been working on this ordinance. So this is, public might recall, we had a very robust and at times heated discussion regarding food trucks being used on town property. And I really took exception to the fact that we did not have any fair and equitable or clear requirements for the use of our property. And that is basically broad for every use. That includes our own boards, commissions that want to use our property. And it was especially important because we're about to develop 4 Richmond Townhouse Road and put a pavilion there, which is likely going to be rented out. So the council requested our solicitor to draft an ordinance based on some of the information that Councilor Wilcox and myself provided to the council. And we got a draft and we decided that we want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into it and greater look. And Councilor Wilcox and I put together a draft and we went back and forth, I don't know, 4 or 5 drafts, quite a bit going back and forth.
And then had a meeting.
And then had a meeting, and we think we're in a pretty good spot. But what we didn't want to make decisions for the entire town nor the council about some really important aspects of this ordinance. Now, just to be clear, this ordinance is kind of the rules on how we're going to determine use of town property. It's not the application. The application is going to be separate. So we tried to go through and define what the purpose was. We also went through and defined what every kind of entity was, whether it's a town property or the people that are involved, the staff positions. We tried to define the difference between a small gathering and a large gathering. So for example, if someone wants to rent the new pavilion and it's like a birthday party and there's like 20, 30 people, that's like a small gathering. If we want to have a food truck event or a tree lighting festival on our property, that's a large event. And so there are different requirements for either of them. We didn't think it was fair to have someone who's having like a small birthday party to have to go through the same process that a large gathering go through, because there's just different requirements for each one in terms of DPW, police, trash, things of that nature, bathroom usage. Then the other questions that came up were, okay, what do we want to do about alcohol? What do you want to do about cannabis usage? And so we wanted to leave that up to the council to debate and the public as well. They had input. I guess we could do that at a public hearing, but we're here. And I'd rather have something that's in a pretty good spot before we actually send it to public hearing. But that's it. That's pretty much the rundown. I'm not gonna read the whole ordinance.
No? All right. Thank you so much for the overview. I think our conversation was good, and I think we got a little bit more into the concerns from the last meeting, the concern that it was very broad and that we wanted to not overly restrict picnics and small gatherings. But I'll open it to some council feedback. Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, just a question. When you guys did this, did you look at other towns that may have similar properties and base that on their ordinances?
104 pages of it.
Yeah. So there's an alignment there?
Yes.
And the only other question, I mean, obviously there's a lot here, but just on, it looks like the, where it says alcohol related events, but it says alcohol and cannabis. And then if alcohol and or cannabis like gets added in, the only thing typically when we have events, obviously there's alcohol that is at some of the food truck events and then there's a liability coverage. But the cannabis use, or I'll just say smoking, is typically not for the actual recreation. It's prohibited because of just the general public. Alcohol doesn't go to other people where smoking or cannabis does. So that's something that I'm just confused why that would be in there. That
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be in there.
That was on me. That was something that I put in just because as we approved cannabis as sales, it was kind of just aligning with liquor. So when I saw this, I said, okay, this should align with liquor. Actually, our interim town administrator raised that same question where
Yeah, you
you're
can.
not allowed to smoke on public property. We have that ordinance. I think I approved that ordinance. It is ingestible as well, so you're not technically smoking. I also don't feel that strongly that we need it there. So I'm happy to remove it because I think that it takes some words from Aaron where if you can't get it through a 2-hour event.
Yeah, and obviously it's legal. It's not that. It's just that, when
Right.
you have a public event and people go there and if people want to if they want to smoke a cigar, you can do that in your home. You can do it wherever. Like if I want to
Right.
smoke a cigar, I can't do that at a public event because my cigar is wafting over to you. So that's understood. That's the only thing I just thought that was odd.
Well, just
I could
don't it,
provide-
just to be clear, this is not cannabis smoking. This is cannabis products that could be
Doesn't
like
say that though.
edibles. It
It-
says cannabis consumption, cannabis beverages and products in the general provision section.
Not
Sure, go
a
ahead, Aaron.
key.
So smoking is not permitted on any town property
Right.
in the town by another ordinance. And so we didn't want to limit it certainly to just cannabis smoking. Because currently, while smoking a cigar and smoking a cigarette is a legal thing, it is not permitted on public grounds in the town of Richmond on another ordinance. And so while alcohol consumption and cannabis consumption is legal, the conversation about does that belong at a town event and what are those? We wanted to kind of cover other criteria because it's not certainly just smoking. It could be ingestion. And so we didn't want to limit it. And we didn't talk about non-legal drug use because they're not legal. And so that's why we limited it to alcohol and cannabis.
Sure, go ahead, solicitor.
And the other part of that was the cannabis was included because even if it's ingested by beverage or edible, some non-smoke form, it's still going to have the psychotropic effects, and therefore you're going to have people on town property that may increase their risk of injury. It may impair their judgment in a way that you may want to consider as far as the insurance, as far as liability.
So it's hard to draw the line between alcohol's effect and cannabis. And I don't want to go down that road. I'm just talking about if I want to have a drink, I'm having the drink and Councilman Dismore is not because he's sitting next to me. If I decide, and I was looking at D where it didn't specify, it seems to be 2 sections here. Where under chapter
D?
1204 permit application. Is it that? Yeah, under D, alcohol and or cannabis related events. If alcohol or cannabis will be served, sold, consumed, it doesn't say like you drink it or you eat it. So it just wasn't clear to me. That's all.
Understood. Thank you. Sure,
Yeah.
go ahead, Counselor Dinsmore.
My thing is if you're drinking, you're probably smoking too. So it's like some people, not all, but I mean that just gets dangerous.
Yeah.
Just for some of the things that were said, just insurance issues and things like that. So, But I think that, I mean, most people that are gonna drink are gonna do the other one with it too, and it's just not a great mix.
I'll give you my opinion on this. I'm only one counselor, one member of this town. I think it's more conservative to just prohibit alcohol and cannabis usage on town property, period. We don't have to worry about the liability concerns. We don't have to get into the back and forth about insurance indemnification. I think that we can have recreation events where we don't have alcohol. Same thing when we rent out the pavilion for parties. I don't necessarily think we need alcohol. And many of you know me outside of here where I do like to indulge in an alcoholic beverage. But I just don't think that the town needs that risk. And there are plenty of other communities, and I looked at them where it is prohibited and there are signs on town property.
Mhm.
And they just say, nope, we don't even want to deal with it. I don't think we should have it, but I'm only, again, one member. So I want to hear what everyone's thoughts are. I mean, look, we can always amend the ordinance after it's adopted later on. There's also a waiver in here. Someone can ask for a waiver if it, alcohol is prohibited. I think I'd be unlikely to grant that waiver because if we say it's prohibited for everyone, and then we start making these onesie twosies, start getting into problems. But
Yeah.
that's just my thought on it.
Right. Anyone else? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, on that issue, I would say, I don't think alcohol should be prohibited, but I would say alcohol would only be permitted if served by a licensed,
Right.
vendor
Yeah.
organization. So you're having service by someone who's monitoring people for overindulgence, whereas and it would limit it to, those larger events like a food truck event where you've got a licensed vendor there. But I agree, as far as people bringing their own coolers and all of that, I think it's a recipe for problems.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't totally ban alcohol, but I would limit it to only being served by someone licensed, to do so.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we have a consensus on that. If not, speak now. So we're going to go for the way Councilor Reynolds just mentioned, where we could allow it only if somebody is licensed to serve it.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
If something happens, then we just pull the ripcord and we prohibit it. I mean, that's not an unreasonable requirement.
Agreed. All right, so let's shift gears to any other questions or concerns. I know last time we had talked about the size of events, so I'm just wondering if the way we've drafted it makes sense to the council. Or if we're good on that. Sure, go ahead, Counselor.
So just back to the one we were just talking about.
Oh, sure.
So it's no cannabis and it's alcohol by licensed person only.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be sure.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got for other concerns or questions or amendments or anything?
We do have one topic we have to discuss. So if you scroll up to chapter 12.xx.020 definitions, we tried to be very clear with how we define nonprofit organizations, for-profit entities. And when we were going through this, we ran into kind of a tough decision we have to make. And there's First Amendment rights involved in this, which is how do we handle political organizations on town property or in town events? And they are not considered non or not-for-profit organizations through the IRS. They are in a different section of the IRS code, it's 527. And you have to be careful how you do it because you can't prohibit political activities on public property, but you can restrict it via application permit process, but you can also restrict it if you have certain events. So for instance, I'll just use the fall festival for example. The Recreation Commission said, all right, we're having a fall festival and we want to allow these types of vendors for the fall festival, they can say, well, they have to meet this criteria. They can preclude having political organizations there if they so choose, because it's not the town prohibiting it on public property, right? So they can set criteria for who's allowed.
Well,
But it's kind of a quandary because while they're not the government, they're kind of an arm, they're a commission.
Yeah.
So we get stuck in this weird
Knew I was going
position
there.
on what we want to do with political organizations like PACs, political committees, things of that nature. Go ahead, Jeff.
the way I read this wasn't that we were gonna tell the Recreation Commission what to do, but it was more about applicants coming to us.
Right, I was just giving an example.
Okay, just for clarity. Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think that, I don't think that we can restrict, applicants from using it. I mean, if, but I think that if there's an event, that it's up to those event organizers to set the parameters for what they want to do or what they want to have, the spirit of the event. But I don't think we can, necessarily restrict a certain group. And I mean, I'm waiting for the solicitor to tell me I'm wrong, but I'd say, it's public property that if we're, rent it out to someone, I mean, we have to be open to everyone who wants to rent it. But if we're authorizing like a town committee to do an event, that committee has the right, I believe, to set the parameters for the types of participation they want to have at the event, and that's fine.
That's what we
Yeah.
know how to put in here.
Well,
Yeah.
That's the understanding that I had as well.
Yeah.
We're not,
Yeah, because I don't think it's, I don't think it's good for us to go down the road trying to restrict someone's access to that, but let the organizations who are setting the theme for the event to do what they want to do.
that makes sense, listener?
It does.
All right. Sure, go ahead, Erin.
And we currently, in our zoning, in our code of ordinance, have a political gathering permit that council has to authorize. That's separate an event. So if we wanna incorporate a reference into that section, that if it's outside maybe just like we do with alcohol, to say you have the proper permits in place, but I don't know that you need to further define that, but we already have that, so I don't want to create a conflict with that current ordinance. So you might want to consider how we incorporate that.
We want to
into
be,
this language.
we talked about being specific, and the reason I brought up the IRS code is sometimes you don't know what an organization is when they come to you. We said, well, if you're a 501c3, you're by the federal government standards, you are nonprofit or not-for-profit. If you are 527, you're a political organization. So we were trying to define that, but we're not trying to restrict a political organization from using the public property. But then we kind of started thinking, well, what if we have a commission that wants to hold an event? Do we have to set any criteria for that? And so I don't know if I probably didn't explain it well. I think you caught on to, I didn't.
I do. So if somebody's renting the property, then, or doing an event, they can choose who comes and goes. If, I think the rec commission could say, we're not allowing political events here. I mean, I believe that past food truck events have said, sorry, we don't want campaigning at our event. Like, I mean, they don't want dogs at the event, they, like, things like that are up to them. And I do think that we should rent out space to political organizations. I think that, if somebody wants to have a picnic at the park, that's fine. But I do have concern with I don't have concern with protesting, but I do have concern with the impact that it could have on traffic. And sometimes you just need to give the proper authorities a heads up, like, hey, we're doing a protest and just be safe. So I think that while I want to allow it, I also want to make sure that those balances are happening. Does that make sense, Chief? Sorry to put you on the spot, but we got to do that.
So it seems like we, in this highlight here, probably the next one, Jay, we have to define what a political organization is. We have to also define what they can and can't do. So a political organization could use the property through the permitting process that we have here, but a protest would be different than a public gathering, right? In terms of using the property for like a recreation event.
Well, yeah, it depends how big the
Mark's
protest is.
looking
I
at
mean, you have
I feel like we're splitting
a couple
hairs.
weeks ago, we had 5 people or 7 people holding signs like that. That doesn't need police, watching out for them.
I think,
You want to add something, Mark, or Erin, you want to add something?
I think if we're talking about a public gathering outside of exclusive use, that may be just a reference to our current ordinance may suffice. And I think if everybody's on the same page, that someone who has a property for exclusive use gets to determine what happens on the grounds, whether it's limiting or not. And I think for our commissions and anybody who uses that, if we are allowing for rental, whether it for a private party or we're allowing for a public entity, our town boards to have exclusive use, that we're under the understanding that they can set the specific criteria to provide what they're allowing for an event or not.
Yes.
And I think if that is clear enough for council, that if we set that precedent towards our conversations, that might not be as vague, but that might provide our boards and commissions and or other uses, some sort of guidance. Because we don't want it to be too vague that they don't have guidance.
Yes. Mark, do you have something you want to add? No pressure. I just didn't want to skip you either.
I would just say a couple of things. I think political organizations fall more within the nonprofit category here. And they shouldn't be treated differently than anybody else as far as what they can do. You know, whether you have a group of people protesting, yelling protest slogans, or you've got a bunch of people singing karaoke, they're still making noise. And so I don't think it matters what they're doing as long as their use is compatible with the property. They treat it just the way everyone else treats it. They leave it the way they found it, and they stay within whatever the bounds are of their use, and you know they comply. So I don't think they have to be treated any differently than any other community organization. And I'm not sure why. Why are we differentiating between nonprofits and for-profits? So what's the difference? If I'm a for-profit and I want to use something exclusively, what's the difference? Is the fee different?
I think the fee.
Is that the only thing?
Yes.
The fees are different, and we set in chapter 060 at the priority of use. It's a first come, first service, but if there's a situation where we run into a problem where there are multiple entities that want to use it at the same time, then we have to have some way of setting a criteria for who gets it first.
Right.
And so nonprofit organizations will get it before a for-profit.
All right, so it's the fee and your priority.
Also, just chime in, we do offer nonprofit organizations waiver from fees. That's what we're doing. So if we have political organizations fall under that, then they would.
So I would. So my thought is you change the name from nonprofit organization to community organization, and a community organization would mean a nonprofit, doesn't have to be charitable, civic, educational, political, or religious organization, including but not limited to blah 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 blah. So you just change the name from nonprofit to community. And then you still have for-profit, which is clear. It's a commercial enterprise. It's whose goal is to make money. And so you can still keep your categories there. And
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Seems like we have a consensus there. Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Mark.
So just a question.
Yeah.
After all, so if next year's fall festival, the Democrat Town Committee or the Republican Town Committee wanted to have a table, what's the process they need to go through? As we are doing here.
Asking the rec commission.
Okay, and does the rec commission have the authority to say yes or no?
Yeah, wouldn't be affected by this ordinance.
Okay. So, all right, so if either town committee wanted to have a table at the next year's tree lighting to have kids come up and decorate stockings. Same process?
Yeah, that's an event by the rec commission, so it would be up to the rec commission.
Okay, so you just have to go to that commission and they can say yes or no.
Right. Okay. Sure, go ahead, Erin.
So as this evolves, what and I don't wanna be assuming, but I believe that this ordinance may supersede our event gathering ordinance, and so there might not be that need to have that included in our ordinance to have a gathering permit permitted by council, because it would be either a small event or a large event. As this ordinance, if it comes to fruition, would replace that. And so I think
Yeah.
it might be a little cleaner, a little more current to have that ordinance. That will happen. Obviously, it's not a notice agenda, but to maybe have that naturally be amended through this process.
Right, I agree. I pulled it up because I was wondering what it says, and it does say that no public lands, blah, blah, for private gatherings. And now this would be that. So I wholeheartedly agree that we should do that. Sure, go ahead, Jim. Oh, sorry. No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I just wanted to add in, I think, it's to what Councilor Dinsmore was saying, it's a time and a place. If the Recreation Commission as an organization is doing what they consider to be a community-focused event, and they want to have, children's activities and holiday-themed things, they would set the parameters so that, for example, if the Democratic Committee or the Republican Committee went and they said, we want to have a table, they could have the determination to say, well, that doesn't fit the theme of the event. But, for example, at a summer, if they hosted a food truck event in the summer and they said community organizations can come, like nonprofits, well, then to me, based on a community organization, that would allow any of those communities to say, look, we're community organizations too. We want to have a table. We want to get a chance to interact with the community. I think that's a time and a place depending on the theme of it. So I don't think we're looking at a recreation commission that's going to bar all those types of activities. I think, when they have holiday theme thing or they have a fall thing, but then there's a time and a place for the different types of things. So I think it's just, it's not going to prohibit that kind of activity. It's just selective of where it fits into what that group has been doing the work to create and where it doesn't. So, because I think there is an opportunity, when we have nonprofits and we have community organizations, people want to meet these committees. They want to meet the League of Women Voters. They want to meet the people who are registering to vote. They want to meet the, RICAN folks. So they may want to meet the political organizations, and there's a time for that. So I think that would be afforded. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other counselor feedback on any other issues on this ordinance or concerns, questions? I guess next steps would be to have our solicitor or our town administrator make these revisions. That work?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about fees. It was attached, but wasn't explicitly notified.
Use of town property ordinance may include fees, I suppose.
Well, it's in here. It says fees.
Yeah.
I think the question we had is, do we put the fees right in this ordinance? We put it in.
I think you attach it. Just
So 6.
Put it with all the other fees.
Is
that's.
there any kind of appetite? I mean,
I just.
what it would look like?
Like how much we would charge? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
I think it's, by size. For instance, a small event is, or a community organization is, I don't know, $25. Small event for, for profit, maybe it's probably the same because it's small. And just, in another fee for, again, talking about exclusive use, not necessarily just to, if you're getting one of these permits, you need a permit. You don't need a permit for a small gathering as long as you're not seeking exclusive use, correct?
Correct.
So only if you're getting a permit, you have to pay the fee. And like I said, if for a larger event, you probably want to make the fee higher. Depending upon, again, you get it. It also depends on how much are you using, how long are you using it for. How many people what are you going to be doing? Are you going to be there, trying to make a profit on something, or are you just there holding an event? You
Mhm.
know, and trying to bring people into an event, so
I'm gonna go to, Counselor Palmigano and then myself.
Yeah, I was just thinking what Councilor Reynolds was saying. It brought up a point. I think if it's over a certain number of people, it should automatically fall into an exclusive permit process. Like, that might be an easy way to do it. Like if you're over 30 people, then you have to go through an exclusive use.
Yeah, so we have that here where if it's a large event, if it's more than 30,
So you're automatically.
You're
yeah, I think
considered a
that would
large
have to
event.
be- Yeah, because you could say if you go to any location in the town and try to rent a property, there's a fee. And I think one of the things that we've said from the beginning about number 4 Richmond Townhouse Road is it's an opportunity for us to offset some of the costs and just the operational expenses of the property. So if we're able to use those fees that come from the rental of that property, go back into the maintenance of the pavilion, that would be helpful to offset those costs so it doesn't fall to taxpayers. Said that from the beginning.
yeah, that's what I wanted to add as well, was, I would actually trust staff's guidance on what we should charge, because you're gonna know the amount of time it's gonna take our rec director to get all this together. You're gonna know the impact it'll have on the property itself. So I'm open to recommendation from staff on what the fee should be.
Yeah, so looking at Portsmouth, I'm trying to stay with similar size. I mean, I also believe that it should be a clear definition between residential use and non-residential use. Because certainly some portion of resident taxes are subsidizing all of our entities. And so, Portsmouth is 75 for resident, 150 for non-resident. I think that would probably be appropriate. Larger events who are going to need other licenses, are we already paying some certain fees? So we don't want to be cost prohibitive in that, because they're going to need outdoor entertainment maybe, and that does come at a cost. And so, I think I'm in agreement. I think smaller events, we want to keep it small. We want to keep, we don't want it to be, I think 25 is certainly reasonable, but for large events, rent any facility in the area. And I think certainly 75 to 150 is very reasonable. And I think separating a residential and a non-residential use.
So if I may, in the, let me think when we submitted this. Back in July, I looked at Groton, Connecticut, because I know they have very similar pavilions to what we're building at Washington Park. And they have a table of rental rates. So they've got 2 different size pavilions. One is like small gatherings, one's larger. So for the pavilions that are up to 30 people, which is the same size as small gathering, if you're a city resident, it's $30 to rent it. Non-resident, 60. City business is 60, and outside business is 120. For the larger pavilions that hold up to 75 people, it's 60, 120, 120, 170. So, $30 for Fortune Townhouse Road for a city resident up to 30 people. I mean, that's what they're charging. And they rent them in 4-hour rental blocks. So, I mean, they have a pretty good policy. Then there are others that, that you provided in this ordinance, but Charlestown and Jamestown also, depending on the size of the event, they have different fee schedules. Jamestown, anywhere between $250 and $400 for non-resident residents for the pavilion at Fort Getty, which is quite a bit bigger than what we're going to have. But as Council Palmigano stated, I mean, we have to recoup some of the cost of maintenance for that pavilion. Same thing for even town hall property. I mean, we pay to maintain the infrastructure here and the lawn and everything. So every time we have an event, I mean, we need to work. There's work that needs to be done. Well, I guess we won't know how we're doing until after we implement it for a year or two, and then see where we're at.
Go ahead, Jim.
And I don't know, Aaron, maybe in your experience that there should be some kind of money put down, because if that property, if there's damage to the property, if there is garbage left that our DPW has to clean up, that somebody has to pay for that. So that has to be incorporated in. Maybe they get that money back, but if it's not left in a condition that we don't have to go and fix it or clean it up, then they don't get that money back.
Deposit?
Yeah.
Did we not put a deposit in here? I thought we did.
I don't know if we discussed fees too much.
We did.
Just something to consider.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Chapter 70 in a refundable security
here it
deposit
is.
for use of
Yeah,
property.
perfect. Because otherwise we're gonna have to pay for that too.
So
Chapter
is
7.
council comfortable with a resident and a non-resident
Yes.
fee for each fee structure?
I am.
Okay.
I don't hear any objection.
Yeah.
All right, you, sure, go ahead, Mark.
I don't think it, I'm just thinking, I want to make sure that we're not requiring small, informal gatherings to have $1 million of insurance. From scanning this quickly, it doesn't look like it does. But I'll look at it more closely when it comes up again.
In chapter 12, XX 30,
Oh, yeah.
it's, where is it? Actually,
Small.
B, small gatherings do not require a permit
And then.
unless they
maybe-
want exclusive use, unless they want to be able to say,
And that's what I mean, but.
oh, if
someone
they're
wants
having a
to-
small event and then they need insurance for that, I
Yes.
see.
Section 80 does have large events do require that insurance. And then it says small gatherings may require insurance depending on the event. The recreation director in consultation with the town's insurance carrier will determine appropriate insurance.
And I guess I would just want to make sure that even though a small gathering is getting a permit because they want exclusive use, they're still considered a small gathering, subject to that discretionary.
So if they're setting off fireworks.
Oh.
Not that
Well,
would be.
they shouldn't be doing that.
You're
anyway.
just giving us a list of ideas now.
Yeah, so
No,
All right.
Okay.
You good? Do we have anything else on this that we want to add, change, question, amend? All right.
Yeah, well,
sure.
one more thing. So the other thing we're getting, resident, non-resident, when we define it in priority of use and definitions, and we by one official town functions, right? And we made sure that the town doesn't have to pay itself. Then we said town residents, Richmond-based nonprofits, and then for-profit entity or outside organizations. So I think in the fee schedule, we'd have to define it in that manner,
Makes sense.
so it's consistent.
All right, so we did have a motion just to discuss and consider. We should have a motion to direct town staff to make these edits. So would you mind withdrawing your motion and redoing it? Or just amend it?
Yeah, so I'll amend the motion to request town staff to amend the draft use of town property ordinance based on the discussion and amendments put forth tonight.
Second. Any further council discussion? Seeing none, we'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you for the work you guys put into that.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback as well. All right, on to new business. We have Antoinette Cristiano for discussion consideration of changing the name of the road at 24 Pinehurst Drive. Doing with you. We don't have a lot of information, so feel free to let us know what you're requesting and why, and then we'll see what staff wants to
Sounds
add.
good.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to consider my request about my little corner of Carolina and 24 Pinehurst and also Pinecrest. It was formerly owned by the Markarts, which owned the farm. And I'm coming up on almost 20 years of living on that road. I've owned this particular property, since 2013, in which I have a survey and whatnot. So I would just like to, I would like your consideration in naming my portion of that road frontage. I am not part of the Pinecrest Homeowners Association, which consists of, I believe, 6 homes, just about a mile up the road from me. And I am not a part of the Pinehurst subdivision. So that one parcel of land there that's that abuts Joe Scott's Pinecrest Golf Course is like its own little entity. And I would like to name that road. I had talked to chief of police, the DPW, and the fire marshal back when I bought it in 2013 about it. And then I recently brought up the suggestion again this year. They had no problem with it, being that there are no other, there's no addresses on there as far as like 911 calls or anything like that. So as far as those town members, they weren't opposed to the possibility of naming my road.
Mhm. So why are you looking to change the name of the road and what do you want to change it to?
Well,
I guess I just don't know why.
Well, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'd love to be
Okay.
buried in my backyard, I mean, I raised my kids there.
I think we have a use code for that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, okay, maybe my ashes, but no, it's just it's very dear to me and to my twin girls. And it's when I go, it's gonna be theirs. And it's my little corner of Carolina. And I love it. And what the funny thing is, when I go down Shannock, there's Richard Road and I'm sorry, Richard Drive and Denise Court or
Mhm.
something like that. And that's my ex-husband's name and his first wife's name. And I see Susan Court and Lori Drive and everything. So, the other reason is that it is a private road. And it was always a very strictly enforced when the Markharts owned it. However, when I purchased it, there has been a lot of problems with the public walking on the road. I mean, they think like it's a nature trail, they park at the golf course, they park at the library. And there have been trails of people walking up and down the road with unleashed dogs. I have endless videos and it's just been a major issue, not only for myself, but for, a couple other residents who live on the private road. And it's, it's my backyard. It's private, it's not public. The people who live up there, they have the right of way, they have deeded easements, which through my survey and my title and my closing, I have, all the documents with the latest easement and whatnot. And, it's not a nature trail, it's my backyard. So Pinecrest Farm customers, and the 6 residents that live up there, their associates, their predecessors, their, UPI, like all utilities, whatever. It's a private road though. It's not even on the Richmond map. So, when I consulted an attorney, he suggested that I bring this forth to the council, so that the town of Richmond can recognize that, it is my property. It's my private property and I'm paying the insurance and taxes on it. And, it is not a public road. And, I'm worried about liability issues and as I said, I'm not going anywhere. It's my little corner Carolina.
Yeah.
So, again, there's no addresses. I do realize that, there are deeded easements for the 6 families that live up there, but again, I am not, my parcel is not associated with Pinehurst subdivision or the private, homeowners association of Pinecrest division. And, as I said, I have the easement that's enforced from when I closed on the property. My property is the only entrance way to Pinecrest. You do realize that,
Mhm.
but, so there's several reasons why I ask you to consider my request.
Okay.
Point of order. Can we bring up the GIS, please? I'm not even sure what we're talking about.
I just have.
And
Yeah.
she just did this great explanation. I'm sitting here going,
I did, thank
did.
you.
I
I'm
have my
trying-
map
I
here, but
have
I
the
do think it would be helpful
I
if
have
you
the
can
GIS
pull it
up,
up.
just trying to understand which portion you're talking about so we can make an educated decision.
So the answer to the why question is because people think it's a trail and they walk on it and they were trying to prevent
Yeah,
that?
and you know,
Have
I
you-
had to
have-
put my dog down because my dog did nib a few people, you know, he did bite a couple of people. It was on the private, it was on my property.
Has there been an
Uh,
attempt for like a private road sign?
We've
Because I know
I've done all
at
that, I've
first,
done all that, I've put no trespassing private property. You know, and the homeowners association, they've made an attempt to do that as well, but I still have a couple residents up there. It's just a problem because people just unleash their, as soon as they turn the corner right on my road, on our road, you know, they have the right of way, but it is my right, you know, it's my land. And they just unleash the dogs. I have endless of videos of people, you know, and I hear it from all the neighbors and I hear it from the residents. It's just an ongoing problem. You know, I just want it, like I said, when I consulted an attorney, he said, well, the first step is to get the town to recognize, you know, that that is your piece, that is your piece of
Yeah,
private
no,
property.
we understand. I think we just want to get some. questions
Absorb
as
it.
well. Sure, I'm gonna, just,
Just a point where we're here to discuss the changing of a name, not determining the ownership of a property, right?
correct.
Correct.
Yeah, so
So,
I just want
yeah.
to make sure, and you haven't said what you want to name it to.
Well, I mean, if that's an, I mean, I was gonna name it my name because my name is unusual unless you go to Westerly. Antoinette
Oh.
Way or something like
Okay.
that. You know, or I was gonna name it after my twin, Scala Drive, it's like something, you know,
Mhm.
And
So is it this?
Sure, hold on. We're gonna go one at a time. Jim has another question?
yeah, just was a follow-up.
sure.
And again, I apologize for not knowing this, but it's a private road,
Mhm.
not a town road.
Correct.
Does that change the jurisdiction of us to even touch that? If it's a private road, I mean,
I'm gonna have our town solicitor answer that.
It's already named Pinecrest Road. It's my understanding that the town had named that road because it's a continuation of the town road.
yeah, so there's a question of whether it actually is a private road or not, so that's.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I brought up my survey and everything. It's
Which
not a
we don't have any
continuation because
information.
it's not Pinehurst.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not Pinehurst, and if you look on, if you go on the, which I did a lot of investigating before I bought this property. Okay, there, it's not even on the map, it's a private road.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
we can-
so that is, yeah, so I'm like right on the ninth hole of Joe Scott's Pinecrest Golf Course there.
So how will changing the name change the impact to the property?
Well, it's, again, I put up signs, I put up, you know, this is something that I've wanted to do. Again, I've lived there for
Yeah.
19 and a half years. I mean, I think it's, you know, pretty neat for me and to, you know, my daughters are gonna have it. You know what I'm saying? And it's my property, so why not be able to name my portion of the road? You know, I mean, if, again, you know, I got the authority in 2013, and then again this year, in 2013, I was raising my kids by myself, so I didn't have the cha-ching to, you know, go ahead and, you know, pursue it.
I love when those kids get older, right?
Oh, they're both,
They're
listen,
not listening,
but
right?
that's what I'm saying, you know what? The best district in the world where I raised my kids, they're
I-
both nurses,
So does
great.
council have any other questions for the applicant? I know there's some people in the public who want to speak, but before we have her sit down and other people come up.
Let me just ask this question. I think, Chief, I'm not sure if you've been briefed on this, or has there been any opportunity for you to discuss
I'm
this?
aware of it, but in all fairness, you and I have not spoke.
No, we're not in person, no.
So when
I
you were
went,
Well,
chief,
you mentioned 2013. I
Yeah.
was the chief at that time. My predecessor was Ray Driscoll. Chief
yes,
Driscoll.
Chief Driscoll, right.
Yeah, but you said you bought the property 12 years ago, 2013?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I just
I
want to
think
be
it-
clear
yeah.
that you said you got the authority, or I had.
Well, I had-
It wasn't me.
No, it was through Chief Driscoll at that time.
Well,
It was
okay.
through Chief Driscoll and, you know, and, the
Jim.
fire marshal, and I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank with the name. A little nervous. I know he just, his father just passed away, our fire chief, fire marshal. And DPW. And then this year, I did not have the opportunity to speak with you, but I went to, the DPW and I spoke with Gary. And then I spoke with Talia, and I spoke with, I spoke with several people here in the town hall. And like you,
I'm sorry, you can address them. I just wanted to make clear that you and I have not spoken.
All right. So did anybody else have any, did your question get answered? Do you have an
Well,
additional question?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information that you're sharing that we had not had a chance to even look at.
Sure.
And I think one of the things is, and again, there have been things that have come before council in the past for road closures, for example.
okay,
A resident wants a road closed for their privacy. And I've always been consistent in my opposition to that because as a town, we're not in the business of closing a road based on the purview of one resident. And I can certainly imagine naming a road after yourself or your children is something nice, but typically that's done when the development is made because after that fact, there are residents that have their addresses, have their information, there's 911 things. And I know you said that in your understanding, it wasn't a concern, but I don't necessarily know if that's the case of what maybe chief would say or someone else as far as if it does have a collateral impact. And typically with even the consideration of this type of thing, you'd have to gather community input. So the people who are affected by that, you'd have to contact them with letters to inform them of your desire to do this. There would be requests outlining the name change, the reason why, and the impact. You'd have to submit the request. There'd be public meetings to address this, probably a potential public hearing, and there's cost that's incurred on that. And it's a Pandora's box too, because you change your name, guess what's going to happen tomorrow? Everybody's going to want to come and change their name. And typically, I think you can understand we need to be consistent on that. Like when a house and development, those streets you named, Richard and all those were named when that development was.
they were, yeah, those were developments. This particular parcel though, that's the thing. That's the only reason I came here for informational purposes.
Okay, yeah, no, just.
Do you understand that this is completely at my cost? I do understand that 100%.
But it does have the potential to impact other residents.
Right.
But okay, so the residents that it impacts, and I understand that, they have deeded easements for the right of way. Okay, on Pinecrest Road. That portion of it. They have a deeded easement, right away. They can, ingress and egress, right?
So to be clear, you want to change the name of Pinecrest on that curve where the.
Yeah, like Antoinette's Way to Pinecrest,
But it goes-
to Pinecrest.
If you zoom out.
Yeah, so it would
affects
just
other
be,
properties. Yeah.
it would say Antoinette's Way to Pinecrest Drive, Pinecrest Road.
Okay, so, all right.
No,
any
I
other
mean, that's
questions?
'cause it's
Hold on one
Pinecrest
second.
from
Hold on one
now.
moment, please. Any other questions before? Because I know the gentleman in the public wants to speak as well, so if you want to have a seat, I'll hear from him.
Oh, I know, yeah,
If you don't mind having a seat, I'll hear from him as well.
yes.
Thank you. When you stand, please go to the podium and state your name for the record. You can wait. I think the microphone's right above you.
My name is Kenneth Payne. I live on Pinecrest Road and I am chairman of the Pinecrest Farm Estates Homeowners Association. And we have to consider the road as a totality. And it's one that has one purpose only, which is to allow traffic to move up, and all the people who live on that road live first at least 3/4 of the way up, with most of us at the top of the hill. So 6 people have residences there, 5 of those residences are at the top of the hill. So we have a road that says Pinecrest Road, and then I go up to the crest, and that's where the people are. It's a very logical name. The only exposure to that name is at where the road is.
Right.
So, and to have us have a road now for the first time I've heard it, change for a portion, what's the signage there? A whole bunch of things are being brought up. We have ownership rights in that road. That's in our properties. Each of us have a 1/7 undivided interest in it. So this is something we don't want to say to ask for that. We don't respect you, but on the other hand, we have the practical reality of a road that connects to that street. And we don't want to choose for anyone. And I think this would be an instance of that, although I had not heard previously on specific recommendations of desired outcome. I think would be we're certainly willing to study this and think it through, but we don't want to jump into it without understanding its impact on the neighborhood and on the people who live on High West Road. I think that's a fair thing. Just to jump into this at the request of one person, I think isn't a consideration of the public interest. And this is a public interest decision, not one of just personal vanity. So I'm prepared to work on it. And the other thing to recognize is this is not a public road. It's a road owned by the Pine Crest Farm Estates Homeowners Association. It owns the road. This is not a town road at all. Town doesn't power it, doesn't do anything. We maintain it. So it's a single entity. And now it's been proposed to become something else. Antoinette doesn't bear any of the expense of the road. We bear it entirely. And that's appropriate because we use it. She uses it too, but she doesn't have to pay dues. We do. And we take care of the piece that is on her property, maintain it. So are we now going to have it sort of snipped off? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very concerning to us. And recognize this is not a town road. And I'm not exactly sure the role of the council in changing the name of a property that isn't town property. That's a very interesting idea. That you can step in and change the name of a piece of property that isn't town property.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate those concerns. I understand completely.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you coming and letting us know your concerns as somebody, well, I'm sorry, you said you live on Pinecrest, you're up in that development? Yeah.
I am.
So it's good to know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, did anybody else want to say anything? I know it's been a long night. Yeah, sure. Just, oh, no.
May I speak one more time? In rebuttal, at least, please.
I suppose I just want to make sure one person at a time, so go ahead.
So as Fraser was saying, it's not a public road, it's not a town road, it's a private. Okay. But as you heard him say, and this is a part of the dispute, and this is why I come before the council, so the town can recognize that that is my piece of property. He is trying to tell you that there's no cost to me, but yet I pay insurance and taxes on that road. Okay. They choose to maintain it. If they said they didn't want to maintain that road frontage, then that's on me. Okay. They refuse to let me into the homeowners association, which when I bought the home, right, I said, well, I'll gladly pay dues and and nope, they didn't want me a part of the association. Okay, on my own little parcel there. But they asked me, well, we're going to maintain it. I said, okay. But what they don't understand is, yes, I pay insurance and property taxes. That's my property. They have a right of way. I have the deeded easement.
Understood, get it. Used to work in property.
Thank
Law, but, so I'll go to council discussion, but for my fellow counselors here, my question as far as how this solves the issue of people walking on the property has not been answered. So I don't know if we should be changing the road. I think it would cause too much confusion to the people further down the road. And I don't see the purpose. When I pull it up on Google Maps, I pull up the property, I do see a no trespassing sign, so I think some kind of enforcement around that. Because I know we've discussed that
Yeah.
back to our other concern with people, door-to-door sales, you know, we have mechanisms that we could enforce otherwise to have people not go on property they're not supposed to. That's a private property sign on Google Maps right now. But, what are other counselors thinking? Sure, go ahead.
I think we've jumped way too far down this before we even understand what the council's purview is.
Yeah.
What the requirements are for naming a road, what the procedures are. I don't even know what to do here with this, with where to start with changing or how. I mean, there's a planning and land use piece of this. There's E911. I'm trying to look in, and I didn't quite understand what we're getting ourselves into coming into the meeting, so I didn't really know what to look at.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what. Let's assume for a second it was a public road. We don't even name public roads. The development names the road, and we just accept it. Now we're dealing with something it's a private road, and there's some property disputes. We're not going to get into that. But I don't even know what the proper procedure is here. So I don't even know if it's worth discussing the merits yet before we even know what the council's ability is in changing road names to start with.
I'll defer to our solicitor to help us out with, what we can and can't do.
I'll get you an opinion at the next meeting on whether or not you even have jurisdiction to change the name of a private road. Whether or not you should even take action at all.
See, I respectfully don't even want to spend solicitor time on that just because I don't understand what problem it would solve. Just because even if we could and we did, I just don't see how it would stop somebody from walking on the property. But that's just
Take
me.
no action.
Sure, go ahead, Jim.
I mean, I would, because it's interesting that if, you know, based on the homeowners association, if each of those members owns 1/7 of that road. So I live in an area with 28 houses and we all own 1/28 of a washout area. And we don't have a homeowners association, but if this issue came before us, the only way it would be resolved would be for the neighbors to come together in the association and decide in a majority that the change should be made, and then they would have to come and do a public hearing.
But the
And
thing
come
is,
to
they
co-
don't.
Hold on, we need to let him speak. We're not gonna have people scream out.
Again, that's the only way, like, if it was even entertained, it would have to be a collective decision of the people who are the owners of that. To make a recommendation to us, but I mean, I'm not even sure if we could even do that at that point. The other thing is, there's no parameters for this, like even in my neighborhood, what's the percentage of people that have to agree for it to be changed? Who covers the costs of changing all of that? There's a lot of questions. I have no idea.
Yeah, I just.
Did I see your hand as well, Counselor Dinsmore?
Yeah,
No pressure.
I don't want to repeat, I just think what you guys said. I don't even know where to go.
Thank you. Hold on, we're not gonna have people call out from the audience. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other council discussion? Sure, go ahead.
I think it would be worthwhile to at least know from the solicitor what the lay of the land is here. We don't even know. I think we need to at least, I'm not saying we're gonna do anything about it, but we need to know just for our own governmental,
Yeah.
you know, is it private? Is it private? It's clear it's private, but what control, if any, do we have over the name? And what control does the applicant have over the ability to name a road that she doesn't control?
Or that she does control,
Or that she does.
subject to easement.
If she, we don't know what all the land evidence records show. Do the owners in the homeowners association actually own that road, or is it an easement? there's a difference, I think.
There is.
And if they own the road, it's their property.
They,
If they- if
and
they-
then as to Jim's point, they probably have an interest in the name. If
Right.
it's just an easement, probably not.
Right, my sense is because they're, well, I'm not gonna.
No, I have concerns, but I do see
I'm
Aaron's.
gonna hazard a guess, but I think it would be helpful to know from what we can learn as to the status of that road in that, over that particular parcel, whether it's an easement or whether it's owned by the homeowners association members. And number two, based upon whatever status it is, what power, if any, do we have to change a name of a private road, whether it's an easement or not. So I think it would be helpful to at least hear from the solicitor. I don't know if the end result is going to be any different. I agree with the sentiments that have been expressed, that I think it would be a major can of worms to open to start changing names of roads, especially as the president of the homeowners association pointed out. You're going to change the name at the point where you turn off the main road onto it. No one's going to know where it is.
Yeah.
So I think it's, but I do think it would be helpful. At least we need to know what we're talking about before we make it an actual plan.
Thank you. Aaron, go ahead.
So internally, when this request came, we did have a meeting. Certainly, there was approvals insinuated by the police chief and the public works. So we had this conversation. And some of this is, which I agree, there's no real clear process for council in this respect, but some of, I think the burden of legality, ownership, and proof should be bared on the applicant, and we had that conversation. And so I did recommend that she seek some legal guidance on that ownership, because we have several private roads in the town of Richmond, and several are maintained with a home ownership. Some have bylaws on records and it has clear powers and duties of board members, and some are absent to that. And so having, the solicitor, if that's what's suggesting, spend time to research that, I'm not sure. I think that would set a precedent for other matters. And so while I think having a process place is important, having some ownership from the applicant, such as we do for planning boards, and having jurisdictions and the materials that the council would like, should be a burden on the applicant, and having the notice and legalities not just stated at the podium, but provided as an exhibit, I think might be something that should be considered. But at the same time, in our discussions, there was there is a process of abandoning a road, but there's not in changing a road, certainly after a subdivision has been named in land. And so that is definitely new waters.
Mhm.
And I think council should have that guidance, but the burden of proof and ownership and the legality, I do believe, should come at the expense of the applicant and not the taxpayers.
For sure. Thank you. So we don't have a motion to direct our town solicitor yet, but we do have someone who'd like to speak. Sure. Go ahead, Iva.
Yeah, I have a question. When the road leaves her property and turns, what's it called?
It's currently called
Pine
Pinecrest. So on her property, it would be changed to something else, and then it would continue being Pinecrest. But I don't,
So it's just gonna be across her land.
Right.
And the connection.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So for however many feet, you would be on a different road. So do we have a motion for direction of town staff? Sure, Jim?
Just one other comment. I mean, I'm sure the applicant is going to do for due diligence to research this and provide that in electronic format to the council. But I would imagine that the homeowners association is probably going to do the same to defend their right to keep the road name the way it is. So we'll see what comes out in the end. So.
Thank you.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Do you have a question? Oh,
No,
I think somebody had a question.
I didn't see it.
No?
All right, sure,
Okay.
go ahead, Mark.
I'll make a motion to ask the solicitor to research what authority, if any, that the council has to change the name of a private road, and to also, to the extent he can, with minimal, with not extraordinary efforts, to determine the status of the portion of Pinecrest Road that runs across Ms. Letier's property at 24 Pinehurst Drive.
Second.
You want to further discuss?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so I think if we're gonna ask the solicitor to look at the private road, I would like to know what happens if it's a public road too, because I think what happens is someone comes and says, well, it's a private road, and says, well, can I change the name of a public road? And I think there are two different paths there. I also disagree with having our solicitor spend time and money to look at a private property issue for one resident. So with the way that the motion is currently put together, I would vote no, because I don't want public money being spent on a private property dispute.
Right. That's what I was gonna add as well.
I think it's our responsibility to look at like the title and easement.
Yep. What we can do is do a motion to amend that, but I fully agree. I don't think that we should be spending money for our town solicitor to do title searches or look into the property ownership of private properties. I'm even a little hesitant to have you look into whether or not council can and can't do it, but I do agree. It would be good just to know what we can and can't do. So I guess we'll hear from Councilor Palmigano, and then we'll see if we have a motion to amend. Sure, go ahead.
I agree with what you both are saying, and I also understand what Councilor Reynolds is trying to achieve. I think what I want to know is when we make a decision to legislate here, I depend on the solicitor to advise me from a legal opinion whether I can or cannot do something. And that's all I'd like to know in the future, to educate me on, do we have a jurisdiction here? And I think Councilor Reynolds can correct me if I'm wrong. That's what we just want to understand for future. Should we be able to do this? That's all.
Council President. Yeah, I wasn't going to do a title exam or anything like that. It was just whether or not the council, as I understood the motion, does the council have the authority and the authority to change the name of a private road? I'm making the assumption it's private and that there are easement rights to cross and recross that the neighbors have. That's all.
So is the request to confirm that it's private?
No,
Councilor
No,
Reynolds? Or-
I just,
I don't understand what we're asking you to do.
I'm asking the solicitor, maybe I was too explicit. I should just say, using his judgment to ascertain whatever information he feels he needs to ascertain concerning the property at 24 Pinehurst Drive in order to render an opinion with respect to the council's ability to change the name of the private road, easement, call it what you will, that crosses the property at 24 Pinehurst Drive.
That's the attorney. Yes. Thank you.
do that.
Friendly amendment to that? All right. Any further council discussion? All right, we'll go for our roll call vote. Councilor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So we'll have that from you, I guess, whenever the applicant is ready to show that the ownership, and we'll discuss it the same night. That's the next step.
Probably do it by the next meeting.
Okay.
Should just give it to us.
Yeah.
And then we'll wait.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I just ask, who would I give that? Do I give it to Aaron?
Yes, give it to the town clerk.
I have all the legal information and whatnot.
Okay, yeah, you
The
can.
title, the easements, the survey, all of that stuff. I did bring it. So just get in touch with Aaron
Yeah.
this week and then. Thank you very much. I just was taking direction from everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing your concerns, and thank you to the public who came to share their concerns as well. To our next item, discussion and consideration of the proposed town council meeting dates for 2026.
You want a motion for it?
Yes, please.
So a motion to approve the 20, can I make an, can I, well, I'll just say, it's a motion to approve the 2026 Town Council meeting agenda with amendments to change the April 21st, April 21st meeting so that it does not overlap with school vacation.
Second,
So discussion.
yeah, discussion. Do you have anything you want to discuss as the motion maker?
We have to vote on, yeah, so I just, there were a couple things. It looks like obviously the schedule was created to not conflict with the school committee, so certainly appreciate that. Certainly those council members who also have conflicting schedules with school committee, I'm sure appreciate it. There were just two that popped out. April 21st is school vacation week, and the 14th and the 7th, which are the 2 weeks around it, are already taken at those Tuesdays by school committee. So obviously we're creating a problem if we do that. I just, I think you're going to get many council members who may not be here for school vacation. Staff has children for school vacation, and the public may be going away as well. So my recommendation for that was either we move the April 21st meeting to April 28th and possibly cancel the May 5th meeting so that we didn't have that overlap. That was just a suggestion. And the only other thing was the Irish side of me loves how you guys schedule a council meeting on St. Patrick's Day. Just gonna say that. I don't think that's the,
You show up in green.
yeah. Other than moving it to Wednesday, the 18th for that one. So, but anyway, that's just my two thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback. Based on the feedback last year when we had concerns about overlap, I did reach out to our Richmond school committee member representatives and asked them if they could see about making their school committee calendar a little more consistent. Like, we meet every first and third Tuesday, but they don't seem to do anything like that. But they did then change their school calendar, so they're not overlapping with us as much. So I just want to echo that I really appreciate them doing that for us. And as far as April vacation, maybe we could do Mondays that week, like the 13th. Or the 27th. I'm pretty flexible, but I understand not wanting school vacation week.
It's always about the collateral impact of the groups that may have the meetings on Monday night and who might occupy this. So I guess that would be something that clerk could advise us if there's a conflict, but that's why I was suggesting maybe
For sure.
moving it to the 28th and then taking out the May 5th. So we'd have the May 19th meeting, we'd have an April 28th meeting. But again, it's.
Yeah, understood. I think Counselor Madnick, did you have something you wanted to add?
I mean, there are two meetings that have conflicts with the school committee already. It's in August and November. My concern is with the budget referendum. If we move the meeting to the 28th, would that end up being a budget workshop? And if it's on the 28th, would we have time to have the agenda for May 5th set? Because if the meeting is on the 28th, we'd have like quick turnaround to then add stuff to the agenda following that meeting.
Yeah, we can ask our clerk. Do you have something you want to add before we ask our clerk these questions?
I would say that we should not be eliminating a meeting in between March and beginning of June because of the budget cycle. I would be inclined to move the meeting on the 21st to a Monday the previous week if the 14th is being used by someone else, the planning board.
Yeah. All right. Erin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, planning board occupies the other Tuesday evenings.
How about Monday the 13th?
I also share concerns because that would be likely our public hearing, our first public hearing on the budget. So we haven't set our financial town referendum date. And so typically we have our first public hearing, the second meeting in April. And so honestly, I think my preference would be to move it to probably the 28th versus move it. I think timing wise, budget cycle, maybe it might make sense to move it to the 28th, and then the second meeting would be and not eliminate the May meeting. And the second meeting of the second public hearing would be May 19th. That would track. I don't think it hurts having it earlier, but what it would do is shrink your time on the budget workshop side is depending on, comes out of the finance committee recommendation in February, March. I think it's the second week in March, the finance committee has the recommendation come out. So you're really would be shrinking your workshop time if you go earlier in April rather than later.
Right, and if we push it back, then we wouldn't have a meeting from March 17th until the 28th. It would just be nothing during all that time. I just have concern with the amount of initiatives that we've have on the board that I wouldn't want to reduce it. Instead of going to one meeting in April, I'd even want to have 2 meetings in April, maybe if we switch to Mondays. Because as we're looking at the school committee schedule and not knowing if they're going to be amenable to a compromise and switching around, we did look into Mondays and see if that was available to staff and to throw that out as an option.
The 6th would, Chambers is not available.
Okay.
On the 6th, due to the budget vote on
Yes,
the 7th.
makes sense.
Monday the 13th.
Yeah.
So Councilor Reynolds said Monday the 13th of April could be an option. I mean, because if we had it on the 28th of April, then the following week is the 5th. It's 1 week.
Right.
So
And another way to add, not lose a meeting. It would be 3 meetings in March, but they would be 2 weeks apart. Be the 3rd and the 17th as currently scheduled. 2 weeks from the 17th is the 31st.
Oh, that's a good idea. Look at you.
Oh, yeah.
We'll bring you a cake. It'll be great.
Well, sometimes we have to work on.
the good of the many outweigh the good of the
Birthday.
one. Yes.
Today, by the way, is my husband's birthday. We're here. We're working.
Nice.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm done with that.
So that's a good idea.
Budget
Laura.
cycle wise.
So March 31st instead of the meeting on the 21st is what you're saying of April, correct?
No, I'm saying, then you can move the April meet, you can, if you moved it to the 28th, it wouldn't be so far.
Yeah.
Or you could do it on the 13th and it would still be 2 weeks from the 31st.
Yeah, so I had a meeting on the 31st and then do it on the 13th.
13th, okay.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
So may I try to amend my motion and see if that works for all of you?
Yes.
So it would be a motion to approve the schedule as written with the amendments of adding a council meeting on Tuesday, March 31st and moving the April 21st meeting to April 28th.
That sounds good. Second that.
What do you want?
I'm sorry, did you want it on the 13th or the 28th? You want it on
I
the
can go
13th?
either way. I don't care.
I'm sorry, I'm on April 13th. Yeah, that would make it so it wasn't 1 week. So I apologize. And the second meeting would be moving the April 21st meeting to April 13th. Apologies.
Second.
All right. I'm just gonna check in. Counselor Dinsmore, you've been quiet. How's that work for you?
I'm good.
You're good? All right. Any other council discussion?
All right, just clarify. So now we got a meeting on March 31st and we've got one on the 13th
Correct.
and nothing on the 21st.
Correct.
Put a meeting on April 28th.
Yes.
No?
No.
No,
Okay.
because we have the following week on the 5th.
And we're gonna keep the November 17th and August 18th meetings that happen to coincide with the school committee. Just happens to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way less than we had before. So it's an improvement.
I'm just gonna throw this out there.
Yeah.
Last year, when the budget was not adopted, we had to put together a fairly quick meeting in July. I think it was in July. to
Might have
get-
been into June.
Or the end of June. Do we want to put something in towards the end of June, so it's on the calendar?
I think we cross that bridge when we get there. What does everyone else think?
Special meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
trying to be proactive, never know.
All right. Maybe we'll pass a budget.
Pessimistic.
We're gonna pass a budget. All right. Any other council comments or questions or concerns? All right, we'll go for our roll call vote to adopt the calendar. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. That brings us to communications, petitions, proclamations, and resolutions from other Rhode Island cities and towns.
Motion to file.
Second. Go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore,
Yes.
Madnick,
Yes.
Palmigano,
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. We have a motion to enter executive session. All right,
Looking at me.
Well, I can make it too.
Motion to enter executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A4 investigative proceeding.
Second, we'll go for our roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Monshano.
Yeah.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Go ahead, Dan, sorry.
Motion to exit executive session.
Second. We'll go for a roll call vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, motion to seal the executive session.
So moved.
I'll second it. We'll go for a vote. Counselor Dinsmore.
Yes.
Madnick.
Yes.
Palmigano.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
And myself, yes. There was one vote taken in executive session, which was to go past 9 PM with the only no vote being Counselor Reynolds. Everyone else voted yes. We covered all our bases?
Yes.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.